How long did it take Apple to become a billion-dollar company? Apple has been around for a while and is now the $2 trillion company in the world. Apple has become the first $1 trillion company and it happened in less than 30 years. The question on everyone's mind is how long did it take Apple to become a $1 trillion company? Well, I'm going to answer that question with some stats and facts about this incredible company. Do you know how a lot of people say that Apple is too expensive? You don't know how little time it took for them to get there. It's unbelievable when you think about it, but they've managed to create such an iconic brand all over the world, and we are going to break down exactly what they did here today. What's the secret to become a $1 trillion company? I'm going to show you how Apple became so successful and what they did differently than any other tech company. I'm going to break down how Apple took the number one spot as the most valuable publicly traded company on earth. They're beating out companies like Google, Microsoft, Facebook, ExxonMobil, Berkshire Hathaway, and JP Morgan Chase combined. And it's not just because they make iPhones. Apple has been the first American company to hit a $1 trillion market cap on August 2, 2018. A year later, Apple has crossed another milestone and became a $2 trillion market cap publicly listed company after its stock price rose about 1%. This is the first time an American publicly traded company goes beyond the $2 trillion valuations in history. Apple Inc., which became the first US publicly listed company with a total value of more than $2 trillion as its stock price rose over $1,000. The tech giant's share closed at $207.39 and reached an all-time high of $212.15, given a market cap of about $1.02 trillion. And Forbes reported that the company's stock price rose nearly 3% in after hours, trading to $214.70 on Thursday morning. Apple hit a market cap of $2 trillion, doubling in valuation in just over 2 years to become the first publicly traded US company to reach the milestone. By the end of Tuesday's regular session, Apple had added roughly $151 billion to its legendary value. Easily enough cash for Apple to buy back all shares in its own stock or pay for one of several mergers with fellow tech giants such as Alphabet and Microsoft. According to CNN report from August 2nd, Apple was founded in 1976 by Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne to develop and sell Wozniak's Apple first personal computers. Jobs then convinced the company to manufacture a fully assembled computer, the Apple II, which was introduced in 1977 at the West Coast Computer Fair. The Apple II, like its predecessor, used a MOS 6502 chip as its CPU, but it had an open architecture that allowed for easy expansion and programming by hobbyists. With this model, in early 1977, Jobs and Wozniak made their first venture capital deal and offered computers to the public, selling them directly from their garage workshop. In 1980, Apple also launched the Macintosh Mac with a graphical user interface, opening up new markets previously closed to personal computers because of the cost of system that ran solely on MS-DOS. The Macintosh was introduced as a higher-paced, lower-volume alternative series to the Apple II line amid growing competition in what had been a single-vendor market, with other non-Apple computers quickly following on the heels of the original machine. The introduction of the Macintosh prompted Microsoft to develop its own Windows operating system for IBM PC-compatible systems that compete directly against Apple Computer, something that led to a long series of lawsuits between Microsoft and many reputable companies. This ultimately led in part to 1998's US $1 billion settlement over an intellectual property dispute between them. Steve Jobs was forced out of Apple in 1985 after multitudes of disagreements within management and became CEO of Nextink, which made Workstation in the late 1970s. Apple had a staff of about 30 employees working at its Cupertino headquarters. As of 2004, the company had about 3,000 full-time employees and 10,000 contract employees. Apple has been a publicly traded corporation since 1980, listed on the Stockholm's NASDAQ stock exchange under the ticker symbol AAPL. On August 24, 1997, Jobs announced in an email to Apple's board that he was resigning as Apple's chief executive officer due to health concerns. On September 16, 1997, Steve Jobs officially retires from the post of CEO. Gil Amelio is named interim CEO while Chairman Arthur Levinson assumes Jobs' role as head of the board of directors until a permanent replacement for him can be found. In 2016, Apple became the world's most valuable company with a market capitalization of $624 billion. Apple has stated that its focus is not just to produce but to include social and environmental responsibilities in all aspects of its business activities. Manufacturing of the iPhone shifted from contract manufacturer Flextronics to Foxconn in 2009. On May 25, 2012, Apple announced it would complete its switch to 100% renewable power for its global facilities, data centers, corporate offices, and retail stores in 2013. The company promised that the completion would mark the end of coal use at Apple. In 2018, it was announced that Apple would move its international headquarters from Ireland to Cork, creating 1,000 jobs. The IDA has stated that the investment will be worth €850 million over 20 years and will generate 2,000 additional jobs through suppliers. In June 2018, it was announced Apple had negotiated with the European Commission and the Irish government for a reduction in what they deemed to be state aid received by Apple. This followed an EU investigation into similar tax agreements in Ireland granted to other multinational companies. Apple Europe Limited is a holding company incorporated in Jersey for tax reasons and handles sales throughout Europe. The Middle East is handled by a different subsidiary. It does not have any employee or own any assets or rights but acts as one of Apple's three main subsidiaries under which all Apple retail operations in Europe and Middle East are conducted. The other two are Apple Sales International, also based in Jersey but established for sales outside of Europe, and Apple Retail UK Inc., which incorporates all 475 Apple stores/shops throughout the UK. In 2017, it was reported that Apple had $246.09 billion worth of cash equivalents, and marketable securities on hand. In September 2017, it was reported that the overseas holdings were capped to facilitate the eventual repatriation of funds without paying US taxes on them. However, there has been no tax reform since then that would permit such a move. The European Commission ruled in 2016 that Apple, Ireland, and the Irish state had reached a sweetheart deal in which Apple would pay Ireland an effective corporate tax rate of 1% on its European profits in 2014, well as receiving favorable treatment for its subsidiaries. In 2016, it was announced that Apple planned to book all of its future non-US sales through a new subsidiary located in Jersey, a UK crown dependency, so that it could continue avoiding paying US taxes on these revenues. It was noted that this would allow Apple to pay a tax rate of less than 1% on its sale outside the US. Firstly, from 2017, Apple will begin paying some taxes on its overseas income as part of a new agreement with Ireland. Secondly, it will then be able to move up to $252 billion offshore without paying US taxes by legally attributing these profits to its Irish subsidiary and thereby avoiding double taxation. However, in September 2017, the European Commission ruled that Apple's deal with Ireland was not within EU guidelines for taxation and sent it back to the Irish government for review. In 2007, Tim Cook became CEO of Apple. He oversaw the discontinuation of the original iPod with the introduction of the Touch line. The last model in that series was discontinued on September 9, 2017. In October 2012, Apple announced it had sold its 1 billionth iPhone, and as of June 29, 2014, it has sold 225 million iPhones. In May 2012, Apple released a new laptop line called MacBook Air, aimed to replace the popular but discontinued white MacBook. On October 23, 2012, Apple became the most valuable brand in the United States according to the American Customer Satisfaction Index, dethroning IBM. It is also the first worldwide in customer satisfaction among smartphone makers. The iPad Air and Retina iPad Mini were announced on October 22, 2013. Apple hit a market cap of $2 trillion Wednesday, doubling in valuation in just over 2 years to become the first publicly traded US company to reach the milestone. Based on a share count of more than 4.275 billion, Apple broke the barrier just before 11 a.m. ET, when its price rose to $467.77. However, Apple fell below the $2 trillion marks as the day moved on, and shares closed at $462.83, giving it a market cap of about $1.98 trillion. Apple first reached a $1 trillion market cap on August 2, 2018. Wall Street has largely expected the iPhone maker to become the first to surpass the $2 trillion. Apple Watch was announced on September 9, 2014 in Cupertino at a media event that focused mainly on its new iPhones and iOS 8. The event also announced updates to MacBook Pro and Mac Mini, a new lineup of iMacs, and an upcoming operating system called Yosemite. Since the announcement of iOS 8 at WWDC in San Francisco on June 2nd, Apple has unveiled Health Kit, Home Kit, Sprite Kit, Scenes Kit, and Metal. In addition to this, Apple unveiled a new programming language called Swift. And I'll leave you at that for today's video. Thank you for watching. Meet you in the second video.